Updates for BF5 are going to be far more regular now, with a 2nd January patch just around the corner. Thankfully, we've just been given the patch notes, and here's a bit of a tease for you that I'll explain in a bit. There are some really interesting things in this one, some big quality of life improvements for a lot of game mechanics, so let's dive in without further ado and take a look. First of all, earlier this month we talked about the Stug, a German assault tank that was being added into the game, and guess what? It's coming sooner than we think it will arrive with this patch. The Stug is very well equipped for self-defense, but it doesn't have a turret, so you're going to need to properly align your tank in the direction of enemies to utilize it properly. Essentially, it will only fire where you're facing. And this patch also has some improvements to the practice range, which I wasn't expecting to see. First of all, you can now practice with gadgets, finally. For example, if you want to practice nailing those epic Panzer shots, well, now you can. There's going to be something there for you. Moving targets. You can also practice throwing grenades if for some reason that's been proving difficult for you. Another addition is skeet shooting. Yes, not entirely sure that was an improvement that was needed, but it's going to be there nonetheless. As well as that, you can now practice with bullet drop, as the range will have the option of enabling a visual representation to help you improve your sniping. Actually, I think that could be quite useful. Spawns have also been improved so you can get to areas quicker, depending on what you wanted to do. And the open range mini games now feature 1, 2 and 3 star ribbons and can be viewed in the scoreboard. Honestly, the gadget use and the bullet drop visualization are really the only two features that I care about in here and I think are of any real use. But I do hope that we'll get more content for the practice range in the future. Now, bipods, the bane of some people's existence. In this patch, we'll get massive improvements to the bipod system. This has been shown off for some time now on Twitter, with various improvements being promised, but now we actually are going to get our hands on them. Neil Stillinger, he works on the game, showed off what we could expect, and essentially it's just a really improved detection mechanic whereby your bipod is going to go up far quicker and much more reliably in most circumstances. Right now, the bipod mechanic is widely used with MMGs, of course, but it can be very annoying and ropey at times. Things you think you should allow to bipod on don't work, and then often the system just doesn't work or wigs out, and it can be quite fiddly. Hopefully this addresses that. It looks like they've completely reworked the system. Now, not only that, but check this out. This was another tweet from Niels, which was a reply to someone who'd posted a picture from World War II, a real picture of a soldier using another soldier's shoulder as a bipod for his machine gun. So, interesting tactic there, I suppose, but Niels replied to this and said, I quote, "The change includes the ability to deploy a bipod on other shoulders. Won't look this awesome though." Now, is he being serious? If so, that's pretty awesome, and I can't wait for the patch to drop and give that a go. Could be some really interesting strategies popping up from that. Vaulting has had a lot of improvements too. Again, this is something that's been worked on for a while now. In this patch, you're going to see that smaller objects no longer require vaulting when you're moving fast, and you will transition over them far smoother without having to go through a full annoying vault animation. Things like stairs should be a lot smoother too. Nothing more annoying than either getting stuck on a small object or, even worse, vaulting upstairs unnecessarily. And there'll be much improved vault grab mechanic too. It's a bit Mirror's Edge this. Right now there's something like this in the game, but it doesn't work all the time, and it's supposed to be that if you are falling from a large height, you can press your vault button or jump on PC it's space, and if there's a ledge close to you, you should grab it and it will save you. Now, this system has been further refined and it's got new animations and everything, so now all you need to do is hold down the jump or vault button and it will automatically try to get to the nearest ledge if there's one available to grab, rather than you having to press the button at the right time. So this means that you can jump across buildings into windows and just generally save yourself from a bad fall. Again, could be some interesting tactics here now this is working properly. The length of the climbing animation to get you back up is also dependent on how far that you've fallen. If it's a small height, then the animation should be pretty quick, but if you've fallen from a really high place, it's going to take more time to pull yourself up. And apparently, I read this somewhere, this system is only going to be on PC to start with because it currently only works on 60Hz servers, but hopefully it will make its way to consoles soon. I remember reading that somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Moving on, the prone mechanic has been improved. How annoying is it when you try and go prone only for the game to stand you back up again? I'm sure that most players have encountered this more than once. And the reason the game does this is because it lets you go prone before realizing that for whatever reason there's something stopping you, and so it stands you back up. Not really ideal if someone is shooting at you and you end up back in their crosshairs when you didn't press the standing up button. But in this patch, the system going forward simply won't let you go prone if it's not possible to stay that way. Right now though, there isn't going to be a UI element popping up and telling you that you can't go prone, which is kind of bad. But if you're hammering that button and it doesn't work, then that's why. At least you will know that when you do go prone, you should stay that way, and a UI message will come in a later patch. Footstep audio then had a few tweaks. Perhaps it was a bit too loud. In a recent patch, the footstep audio was cranked up quite significantly, and this was good in a way because you could really clearly hear enemies coming for you and predict movements. However, it was perhaps a tad too loud, and DICE certainly seemed to think so too. It's not going back to how it was, but rather somewhere between what we have now and what it used to be. I think that could end up being a good middle ground, we'll see. You should be able to still hear enemies, but it's not going to be so loud that it's really distracting all of the time, because I feel like it was. And other improvements include fixes to the kill cam. It was a bit jarring when they introduced the new one, so the delay sometimes after dying was annoying, but also the medic revive timer should be back working again. So you may have noticed after the previous patch that the timer on friendlies indicating how long they had left to be revived was broken, it just didn't work. Should be back to normal now. Arguably one of the biggest changes or improvements though is the fact that friends can now join your server even if the server is full. This might sound a bit daft, but on PC this has been a big issue. I'm not sure it was much of a problem on console, but on PC, let's say I was in a full squad and the server was also full. If a friend tried to join on me, in some circumstances, even when the server wasn't full, it would give them an error, and the only way to get them to join the server or the queue was to leave the full squad. Now though, that's been patched and friends will actually get added to a queue. It was a really frustrating bug and I'm glad that it's been fixed. So gameplay changes are not the only thing coming in this patch either, as Panzerstorm, the map, has seen some changes, some of them quite substantial. The F point, for example, is now pretty much 4 times bigger according to DICE. More buildings were added to the swine farm to extend it, and there's going to be an oak valley along the road between G and D to make it easier for infantry to navigate the route without being killed or spotted. DICE have seemingly heard complaints from players saying that there isn't a whole lot of cover on the map for infantry, and as such they've added a load of ditches and mounds to help players out. They call this the Arras treatment, and what they're saying is that there is now more of a height difference across ridges, walls and roads, meaning that infantry have a few areas that they can move between without being fully visible or exposed. Quite a few changes to other parts of the map too, more trees to allow cover around A and D, as well as that house there being rotated 180 degrees, and there's now a ladder on the D barn so you can get to the top and look around. That one's definitely for the snipers who like to go long range and pick people off, but also maybe a cheeky opportunity for people to climb up there, stab them, get their dog tags. There's a ton of other changes too that I don't want to go through for this map. Overall quite a few really, and Panzerstorm definitely divided opinion from players who loved it or hated it. The way I see it though is that it should be a lot better now for the guys who love infantry without really removing that vehicle focus, so I see that as a good thing. A couple of other things here like improved ADS animations, which means that all rifles, SMGs, LMGs and shotguns have improved visibility now across all of the scopes, and just a ton of other bug fixes across the board that I'm not going to bore you with. And wrapping things up, I just wanted to talk about the new weapon in the game at the moment, the MAS 44, because I didn't really think that it warranted an entire video on its own, because it's very similar to the Turner SMLE, which I do like, and while this gun feels nice to use, it doesn't really jump out at me in terms of being very interesting or fun. It's got a 360 rate of fire with 10 rounds available. Fully upgraded, it's got very similar stats to the Gewehr 1.5, but that weapon has 31 rounds in the mag. So I feel like the Gewehr 1.5 is still the champion of semi-autos for the assault class for me. When it comes to specializations for the MAS though, I chose quick aim from the left hand tree, and then moved across to the right to grab the custom stock, lighten stock, and then moved back across to the left hand tree to choose the recoil buffer. There are a few options that can help you out with hipfire if you want that, and the detachable magazines will give you a better reload as well as one extra bullet if you choose to go down that route. All in all, there's nothing wrong with this weapon, it's fun to use. I just hope that going forward we get some more interesting and unique weapons, at least as much as possible, from World War II. I do remember DICE mentioning at the reveal something about secret weapons of World War II. Obviously we had that back in the day for BF 1942 as an expansion pack that was extra content, and I think it was Daniel Berlin that mentioned it at the reveal, so perhaps we will see a ton of experimental weapons, vehicles, and maybe some urban myths or something that they add into the game towards the end of life. I think that would be really cool. And with that said, that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this look at the new patch for BF5. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe for more, hit that bell, and I'll see you in the next one.